everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Backstage Spotlight. Today I'm with Izzy. Hello.
Hi,
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Would you like to do a little introduction and say what you're currently doing in the performance industry?
Yeah, so I'm Izzy Formby Jackson, and I'm currently the Super Swing and Dance Captain for the Six the Musical Tour. So yeah, that's what I'm doing at the moment.
Amazing. So, can you tell us a bit about your role as a super swing and dance captain, was it, did you say? And
Yes.
what those roles, what the responsibilities are for people who don't know or aren't familiar with that role in the industry?
Yeah, sure. So basically, Super Swing means that I am essentially second cover for every queen that you see on stage. So I go through all six tracks, and basically, I'm just there whenever there's illness or holidays or things like that. So we also have alternates who are kind of like the first covers. So they alternate between two tracks mainly, and then sometimes they'll have like birds and things like that. But mainly they'll alternate between the two tracks, and then if one of those tracks is off, they'll go on first, and then if two of their tracks are off, then it'll be me and them, if that makes sense. So yeah, so that's basically my responsibility there. It's just to keep all the tracks in my mind and throughout the contract. And yeah, they give me like scheduled debuts and things, so it's really lovely. And yeah, and then basically dance captain. Essentially, it's just keeping the form of the show kind of unified the whole year round. So we work quite closely with the resident choreo, and they will basically like guide us through it, and I'll basically give notes, and I'll do a show report every week and do my notes for the girls, and then yeah, and then me and Meg will work together and yeah, and hold the rehearsals and things and just keep it all nice and tight and uniform throughout the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a responsibility on such a fantastic show. And if
Yeah.
you've seen six, first of all, you should go. It's on tour at the
Yeah.
And secondly, there's six queens and they're the six wives of Henry VIII. And these tracks, like, they do not go off stage. So to know
No,
six tracks is so impressive of a show
thank
that,
you.
constantly on stage, like different positions, different canon numbers, different harmony.
Yeah.
I do not know how you do that. So that is very impressive.
Honestly, it's one of those things where like you don't think that you can do it until you find yourself doing it. Do you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
think for a lot of like swing roles and stuff, like you are, and this is still so hard. You are like about 10 different ensemble tracks, and it's like you've got to think about where you're moving on the stage and what you're doing and which prop you're holding and things. But I think with six, because you're covering all main roles, like everyone's got a song, everyone's got a monologue, everyone's got like a big part to play, you know? I think it's like, it's such a different, like, swing track. And it's been really great to kind of see how my version of being a swing works, because I think everyone has like a different way of doing it and a different way that
Passion.
like helps them remember things.
Yeah,
Because
what's
yeah, it can get so like when you first start out, it can be really intimidating. It wasn't so bad for me because I'd done the cruise version previously, so I was a swing on that contract too, but I did three of the queens. So I did Berlin, Seymour, Howard, and so I already knew like the lines and the kind of general choreography and stuff. However, like when I got to the tour, there was like lots of slightly like different changes and things and different spacing. And so because on the cruise we're directed and choreographed by like the Broadway people, so like Americans. So
Oh,
obviously it's
wow.
kind of that version of the show, if you like. Um, and so obviously there is uniformity throughout the whole every single version, but obviously there were slightly different things. And so for me, I was like, oh, this is not the same as like my original track, so I kind of had to relearn. But even just having the lines in my head was like a kind of step already in the right direction. It definitely allowed me to get into those tracks again in a new way much quicker. Um, but it was great. Like it's such a challenge, and I absolutely love, you know, doing all six. Like what an honor! Like it really does feel like that. Um, and yeah, and it's been great on the tour as well because like we went to Stockton, which is like really well, it's essentially my hometown because I'm
Oh,
from Middlesbrough, and it was over the Christmas period, and obviously a lot of people are sick over Christmas because it's so cold and awful. And so I was on for like 10 shows, like back to back, and my family got to see me as four queens
Wow.
in Stockton. So it was, yeah. Um, and yeah, since my Oregon debut the other week, they've now seen me as five out of six. So it's been very, and that like never happens. I feel like when you're a swing, like it's rare that you can ever really get like your family in at the right time, and because usually it's last minute. But I've been very grateful to have had that, definitely.
Yeah, so good. So say someone says like you're on tomorrow as this queen, what's your
Yeah.
process? Do you have stuff written down to like get your head back into that track?
Yeah. So basically, depending on how long it's been since I've done the track, I have like my swing maps, which is like on my iPad. So I use Good Notes, and I basically have like a play-by-play of like the whole show. So it's like where everybody stands, all the transitions, like the poses and things. So I'll have that kind of play-by-play, and then I also have on my like notes app on my phone, I have like what I call a cheat sheet. So it's like if it's really last minute and I just need like a few things that I know for me, those are the things that I forget, or like these are certain lines that I might miss out, or certain positions on the stage. I have that quickly to be able to just check before the show if it's like super last minute. But luckily, touch words, there hasn't been anything super, super, super last minute to that point. But it is good just to have like a little flick through, even if I've done that track recently. The cheat sheet just helps me like get back into the zone of like, okay, like I'm seeing more today. This is what I'm doing. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really helpful.
Yeah, that's really good. And I suppose six is quite a nice one to draw out on a swing map because you can do all the colours of the queens.
Yes, that is very helpful. It is. No, literally.
No.
Yeah, because we have on the stage there's like rows of like little X's.
Yeah.
So we have like a blue row, a green row, and then like a pink row at the back. And then we've got numbers all across the front of the stage. And it's like every single thing that you see is choreographed. Every single little thing. And like I didn't know that with before I joined six. And like it is so precise, and it's literally like if I'm not like on green seven green, then it's like that's a no. Do you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And so it's like you have to be so precise with where you're stood, and because obviously you've got all the lights and everything, and it's such a like gorgeous technical show that you need to be on your mark. So that's the thing that is kind of the hardest thing I would say for like us as a SWAT team is at the beginning remembering all those numbers because there are so many of them, and there's so many transitions and stuff. And I think when you watch the show, you usually will focus on like whoever's number it is, obviously, and we're just kind of in the back doing the dancing, which is the point. But every single like, there's so many little transitions and stuff, and I don't think people like would necessarily realize that about the show. But it's really cool and it's a great challenge for us, definitely. So,
Definitely. What's your favourite queen to play?
see, people always ask me this question, but I'm not sure. I think it changes. It changes depending on like me and like even just like where I'm at like mentally at that time.
Yeah.
Like sometimes like being like Seymour or Park can really like help me. Like I'll like, use my emotions to like really help me. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
or like if I find that I've got lots of energy that day, like I'll really enjoy being Berlin. Do you know what I mean? It's like things like
Yeah.
that where it's like, sometimes like if I'm feeling tired or if I'm like maybe starting to get a bit of a cold or something, it's like there's certain queens that I probably wouldn't enjoy as much as others.
Mm.
Like for example, Aragon, you are the first number in the show. So if you're feeling like a bit nervous, it's a really great one because your main section is over within like the first 10 minutes of the show, really. So
Yeah.
that's quite a good one because it's like, oh, like I've done my song, like it went well, and now I can just like be in the scenes and like live my life and do the backing. So yeah, I quite like that track, and that's just one that I've done really recently. So it's like quite fresh and like still like feels really fun and new. So yeah, I
Nice.
don't really have one. That's a terrible answer.
No, no, no. It's I feel like you can't have a favourite queen if you're in it.
No,
Especially if you're a
yeah,
sport, like you're literally doing all of them and there's gonna be some you prefer to do, but as you said, like I think it's
yeah,
being in the moment, which is it's nice because you get to appreciate all of them, which is really good.
yeah, definitely,
I wanted to
definitely.
ask you, in terms of with it being like a UK tour, um,
Mhm.
when you know all the marks like on the floor, how
Yeah,
does that change from venue to venue? Because not all venues are the same.
yes. So we have an A stage variation and a B stage variation. So when we do, because we're UK and international, when we go international, so we did like Manila, Tokyo, we've done Singapore and more to come. And so we basically have a new version of the show for like the B stage, for the international stage. So that's a whole new set of numbers. That's everything is completely different. Even like the spacing in some of the scenes is slightly different to like open it up because it's a bigger stage
Yeah.
essentially. Um, so yeah, and we have like an international set as well that like will be taken to those places. So it's just a lot bigger. So usually we have numbers running from 1 to 12, and then on the B stage, I think it's to 14. Or maybe it's 1 to 10 and then 1 to 14. But yeah, it's like a lot wider and a lot deeper too. So it feels very different. But I prefer the B stage because the B stage is what we did on the cruise.
Ah,
So that feels more natural to me. But even like in venues like the vaudeville, I'm sure like I've heard from like the other queens that like that stage like is a lot smaller. So even though they have the numbers still like we do on our stage, like it does feel a lot more compact because of the theatre. It's just interesting. Like it's like when you're doing like your walks forward and stuff. When you're on the B stage, you're having to really storm across the stage, and then it's like you get back to the A stage and it's like, oh, like I'm in my position already. Like I'm early.
yeah.
So yeah, it definitely changes things. But again, a new challenge. I now have 12 swing maps. So yeah, but it's all part of the fun and it keeps me going, you know. So that's good for me.
Yeah, it's great. It's so interesting to hear like this side of it because I feel like when you just go see a show, like you don't understand all of the behind the scenes, and especially for a swing, like it's like you save the day on a
Oh, thanks.
like, on a holiday. Like it's mad, and the thing
Yeah,
you guys have to do is so intricate, and even the queens like having to know the A and then the B for their character. That's
yeah.
like that'd be
Yeah,
me.
it's already a lot even just for one queen. Like it was very when we got to Manila, like we had like a whole rehearsal process there. And like it was very challenging because once you get used to the show as a certain way, like it is really hard to then, you know, kind of scrap everything that you know and like rework it and go, okay, now I'm not on 8, I'm on like 12.
Yeah.
um but yeah, but it's such a great challenge, and we've loved being abroad and like seeing all these amazing like bucket list countries. Do you know what I mean? It's just been sensational, truly. So yeah.
So nice. What is your favorite part in the show? Like, regardless of the character you're playing, what's your favorite moment?
I would probably say remix, I think, which is kind of on the back end of like Catherine Parr's segment. Just because, I mean, I have a soft spot for Parr, I think because I started on the tour learning her. But I love remix because that's kind of the moment, the one true moment where we all kind of come together after the show's kind of not to spoil anything, but after Parr breaks the show, we then kind of all come together, and it's like, oh, actually, like this is about us telling our stories. It's not about us competing against each other. And I think that message is just so beautiful. Like even just like as a woman, like in theatre, like I think often, you know, we're all up against each other in these auditions and things like constantly, and that can feel really like scary and horrible. And I think, you know, Six touches on that a lot about like competing against like woman to woman. And I think it's a really beautiful moment of kind of being like, you know what, like we're all in this together and we're all having this shared experience. And like, so actually we can be united in that instead of against each other and feeling like alone.
Mm.
And also just with the history of the wives, like obviously, you know, I mean, I didn't really learn much about them in school apart from that the divorced pair had died, divorced pair had survived.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same for quite a lot of people. And so to be able to kind of sit down and listen to them tell their own stories in like a fun kind of pop concert way, I guess is, you know, you're sending that message across without really without people realizing that they're learning something because it's so
Yeah.
fun and, you know, visual and beautiful. Yeah, it's really cool that we can like teach them something. And I think remix is that moment where it's like you kind of click on and you're like, oh, I see what they're doing now. Like it's not a competition, it's like they're trying to make a point. And I think that's when the point is made. And that's I just love that moment. It feels really cool and like special to like all come together. So yeah,
Nice, yeah. It's really good message. And even the history aspect, like you said,
it's
I never
crazy.
know so much about Henry VIII's wives. Like,
Me either, honestly.
so you mentioned being on the cruise. How does the cruise differ to the UK and international tour? Because you're still visiting
Mm.
places, but in the cruise, you're on a ship, in the same ship, on the same stage, visiting different places. Whereas
Yes,
tour and international, you are going to different stages as well as visiting new places. So how is that?
yeah. I would say the cruise it's just a different feeling. I think like obviously for me, like my family like couldn't really come and see me on the ship because we were around America and like the like west coast of America through like Mexico and these amazing places. And so that was a big difference for me was that like coming on the tour, like my family, it was accessible to my family a bit more, which was lovely. But then on the cruise, it genuinely just feels like you're on holiday a bit, like it does. Because on our cruise specifically, because they don't, the six aren't affiliated with NCL anymore with Norwegian. But when I was doing it, it was we would do 4 shows per cruise. So like sometimes we would have like 14-day cruises and we would only do like 4 shows in that time. And we would always do 2 shows a day. So it's literally like 2 days of work for like 14
Yeah,
days.
over like 2 weeks. So you're just having a holiday.
Yeah, so it was literally like it was crazy. And I think that's why obviously for me as a swing, like I only really covered injury on the
Mm.
cruise. Like I didn't really cover sickness because people had it kind of enough time to like rehabilitate themselves within that kind of week or however long it was, however long the cruise was. So I feel like I really stepped into what it feels like to be a swing on this contract much more because we're doing way more shows. We're traveling all the time, so it's obviously very tiring, and it's harder. I think the tour is harder, definitely, but also it's you're more accessible to people and like um, I think that's the main thing for me is that my family can come and see me. I think that was like a really important thing. And also like going to, for me, like places up north and stuff, like the fact that I can like go and perform in like Newcastle or like, like Stockton or wherever, Bradford, these places that like, are that feel like home to me.
Yeah.
And I get to like bring six there and like people get to hear like their accent on the stage. Like that is for me is really special. And I think growing up, like I would have loved to hear someone like speak with a northern accent on stage and be kind of celebrated and stuff. Like I think that was a rarity for me when I was growing up. And it was like, the northern characters and things would be like the chef or like the maid. And that was kind of like it. But to be able to see someone like me, being a queen and like slaying, shall we say, um, is, that's a really like gorgeous thing. And I spoke to lots of people when we were in Stockton. I did quite a lot of stage door and it was really humbling and it felt really special. Whereas like on the cruise, I think obviously a lot of people will just go and watch whatever show's on, so they don't really know what six is when they're going to watch it. And
Yeah.
so like sometimes like the reception wouldn't be like crazy. Like on tour, like the reception is always amazing because people love the show and they want to see the show and that's why they're there. But I think on the cruise, obviously, like people sometimes would go and not know anything about it, and that is also great because that means we're bringing the show to new audiences. But also, like for us, it was kind of a bit like do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they usually ended up loving it by the end. But obviously, it's when they tell you, oh, it's a show about Henry VIII's wives, and then we all come out on stage and it's like, divorced, boom, boom. Everyone's like, what the heck is going on here? Like, so yeah. But I loved the cruise. But we only did like a short stint. So I wonder how I would have felt if I'd have been on like a longer contract. Like maybe I would have had a bit like, oh, I need to get off, I need to go. But I did really enjoy like seeing all these places. Like honestly, travel is such a big thing for me as well, just like personally. And so to be able to say that like I've been to these places and like done the Panama crossing and things like that, like
Oh,
those are things that I never thought that I'd be able to do. But then again, with this UK tour, like because we're doing international stuff as well, like Tokyo's been on my bucket list for years.
Oh, it's incredible.
So it just to say that I've been there and like seen Mount Fuji, like that is just it's unbelievable. It is truly, I cannot believe my life sometimes. It's just crazy.
So
It's
good.
crazy.
How does it feel then coming on land, shall we say, and
Yeah,
having that huge fan base? Because Six has the most amazing fan base
yeah.
online and in person. Is it overwhelming? How is stage door and how have you adapted to that life?
Yeah, it can be. It definitely can be. I think, like, for me, it is just wild to me that people like would be a fan of me, which sounds ridiculous, but like it is just it's crazy. Like, it is the most crazy thing. Like, I got sent t-shirts with my face on the other day, and I
Oh,
was literally like, I am just in disbelief. Like, it is just wild. Like, and like people like doing their amazing artwork and stuff of like
it's so
me in like my
special.
costumes, and it's just it really is unbelievable. And the fact that like I've had an impact on anyone is a lovely thought. But it can be overwhelming, and I think with things like bootlegs and things, it can be quite stressful. Like, especially when you can see people recording, it's kind of a bit like, oh no.
Yeah, the
And it
pressure.
does add the pressure. It does add the pressure. Because especially like being a swing, because I'm not on every night, people are kind of like, oh well, if she's on, like I'm gonna try and get a bootleg or whatever, because this might be the only time that I get to see it, or
Yeah.
the other people get to hear it. And I understand that accessibility to theatre is a difficult thing, and I think that tickets for any show they are expensive, and I understand why people would want to share the show. I totally get it, but I think, speaking just for me personally, like it does add the pressure. And I
Mm.
think when you meet people,
It's about experiencing it in the room.
yeah, I think it is a different experience too, and obviously like the sound is different when you're in space, and I think it does definitely add the pressure. And I think everyone from Six can say that like it is a continual thing that happens a lot. um but also it's just also just like a fact of if I'm going to go on stage, I have to be happy with everything that I'm doing, and be confident that if it does find itself on TikTok, then I have to be okay with that. And every time I walk out on stage, if I can walk off feeling proud of myself, then that is the main thing. And so
Yeah.
I try it. If I see a bootleg, I'll listen to it once, and then I'll pretend like it doesn't exist. And I'll try not to be too harsh on myself.
Or you can add it
um
to show reel.
but yeah, so I think it can be overwhelming for sure. But as I say, like I've met so many people that have been so deeply impacted by the show, and I think it reminds me like how important like the messages actually are. Because I think when you like think about Six, I think you think about like the costumes and like the riffs and the belting and the singing and the grooves or whatever. But I think there's a lot of depth actually to it, and I didn't necessarily realize that before I got into the show. I thought that the harmonies were like tracked. Like, I genuinely thought that there was like little bits of harmony like playing through, but it is just us out there. It is just us out there.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so it can be daunting to know that you're being like viewed so much by everyone, especially on the tour, because I think you're almost like I was almost like protected a bit on the cruise, because as I say, like fans weren't coming to the show that frequently because
Yeah.
it was on the cruise, and obviously it was less accessible again because it's expensive to go on a cruise. um Whereas like obviously people who can afford to come and see the show will and have access to it because it's in the UK.
Yeah.
And
And it
so
travels round closer to there.
yeah, exactly. And they can like go in their hometown or whatever. So that is a wonderful thing. And I'm glad that we can, bring the show to so many people. And, like I think one of the big things for me was like going to places like Manila, and where, there were so many people at stage door. And like, when we went to Manila, the company kind of said to us, like, we're not sure like if they'll really know about like the SWAT team and stuff. Like, we're not sure like if they're gonna know who you guys are. Like, because obviously when you see people on stage, those in your brain, those are the queens, and that's kind of it. Whereas like I think usually like in the UK, like the fans know all of us, but they were kind of preparing us to not have that. And so, you know, we're like walking out through stage door and everyone's stood there and we're trying to like be low key. And everyone was like, oh, like Izzy, like Lauren, Erin. And they were like shouting us over. And we were all literally like, oh my God, like, hello. And like, this is crazy. Like, they'd really taken the time to like either look through the program or like look like on social media or whatever to kind of find us. And, you know, they were saying like, you know, we've been waiting for the show to come here for years and like we're so excited to have it here. And it's mad to think that the show is worldwide. Like it is just crazy. And to think that like it's me up there is even crazier. Like it honestly, I have to like pinch myself sometimes, I think, because it's unbelievable. You know, it's just my job. But yeah, but it means so much to me and also a lot of other people around the world. And it's a very crazy thing to wrap your head around for sure, for sure.
How can you like do another job after this? I mean, it's like a dream job, isn't it?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Like it's crazy. I mean, there's many things that I would, you know, many shows that I would love to be in.
But
But
name a few
as you know,
dream roles. That's what I ask at near the end. I go, what would you like to do in the future? What are you?
oh my gosh. See, I like to keep quite an open mind. I feel like it really depends on many things. And I think I get scared like putting things out into the universe because it's like they say, don't they? Like tell God your plans and like he'll laugh at you or something. There's like, it's like a saying, I think.
Yeah, I
And so
know.
it's like for me, I'm kind of like I am going to
Like keep
refrain
the cards
from
close to your chest.
yeah from telling you what my dream roles are because I think if they come to me, if that's what is right for me, then it will be. But I think like you know, I really wanted to get six, but I honestly didn't think that it was going to happen for me at least this soon. And you know, when I got the ship, I was so gagged. I was literally like, oh, what? And they want me to be a swing, like
What?
what? And like now obviously like being super swing and doing them all, like I mean I hit swinger like swingers like the bingo card of like when you've done all six queens, that's what like the fans call it. And I hit swinger a couple of weeks ago and honestly that day like I'll remember forever like in my career. Like that was just a crazy feeling and felt like such an accomplishment. And genuinely, I think as well because I wasn't sure that I could ever be capable of doing six main roles like that. And even just talking about it now, I'm literally like, I can't believe the words that are coming out of my mouth that like I can do that and that I feel comfortable on stage and I feel good about everything that I'm doing
Mm.
and I feel really confident. And I think six has brought me so much confidence. It
So
really has. And I think that's massively to do with the amazing casts that I've been with because truly, when I tell you the girls lift me up every time I'm on that stage, you know, they're constantly saying like, oh, like I can't believe you can do this and you know, and they're always like when they like hear my riff for the first time, like it feels so I feel so supported and I think that has really helped me. Yeah. And I think as well, like sometimes it can be hard, like when you're, you know, traveling around in stressful environments, like and it's just women, like you would think that that would be like, you know, quite hard. But I feel so lucky to be with the queens that I'm with. Like they are truly wonderful.
so
Um, yeah, and they've just been incredible, like helping me and yeah, and just it's been a lovely environment, definitely.
really
Yeah.
nice. So now that you've played all six queens, has anyone done that edit where, you know, in the finale when you can film, where like you're all
It's
six?
every Mega Six, yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, we did say when I hit Swinger, we were like, how long do you think it's going to be before that video is released? And we were like debating. We were like, oh, I think it's going to be 1 hour. I was like, I think it might be a couple of hours, but they were on it. Like even when I did Cleans, which was my fifth queen, they'd already made like a version of it that was five, and it was like
wow.
because my last one was Aragon, so they
Yeah.
just did it from Berlin onwards. So like it was already there to some capacity. They just had to add in the Aragon one. So
Brilliant.
yeah,
So
it's
nice.
and again like crazy to see that.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's so
Just
nice.
like yeah, like it's just crazy to like actually see it because then it's like oh that is me doing all of it. Like I've said every line in the show. Like it's just like it's
Yeah.
such an odd thought.
So mad. So before we wrap this up, what a great chat. It's gone so quick. I always ask my guests to nominate someone. It can be someone in the company six, or it can be someone who you look up to in the industry to come on the podcast, and I'll try and reach out to them and get them on. Who would it be?
Oh, I'm trying to think who would want to do it. Mm, it depends because if you would like someone with a different perspective to me, because obviously there's my wonderful alternates that I could suggest, but
Yeah.
also like there's the principals too, which have a completely different like experience because they're on every night. So maybe I mean Ellie's next door. She plays Catherine Parr, so maybe she's gonna hate me. I'll suggest Ellie because she's literally there. So I'll suggest Ellie. Yeah, Ellie Lord.
Well, tell her that I'll message her and that
I
she has.
will. She'll be in it, literally in this room, doing it again.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Izzy. It's been
Yeah,
so
of course.
you. Everybody listening, if Six is coming to a town near you, go see it. What a show. He's on. Give her a big cheer. Go for
Hey.
socials, Izzy Formby Jackson, and see what she's up to. And thank you so much for joining me and have a lovely rest of your contract. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you so much.